Welcome to the Junaid Echo Stories. Stories of love, pain, sacrifice, and the silent struggles of single dad.
The alarm clock buzzed at 4 in the morning, but Tyler was already awake. He had been staring at the ceiling for the past hour, counting the cracks in the paint and wondering how many more days he could keep going like this. His body ached from yesterday's shift at the warehouse, but that pain was nothing compared to the weight pressing on his chest. In the dim light, he could see his daughter Sarah sleeping peacefully in the corner of their small studio apartment. She was wrapped in a thin blanket, her 7-year-old face relaxed in dreams that Tyler hoped were better than their reality. The apartment was barely large enough for one person, let alone two, but it was all they could afford. Tyler quietly pulled himself out of bed, careful not to wake Sarah. The floor was cold beneath his feet as he made his way to their makeshift kitchen, just a hot plate and a small refrigerator tucked into an alcove. He opened the fridge and his heart sank. One egg, half a loaf of bread, and a nearly empty bottle of milk stared back at him. Tyler closed the refrigerator softly and leaned against the counter. His paycheck from the warehouse wouldn't come for another 3 days, and his wallet held exactly $7.32. He had already done the math 100 times. It was enough for Sarah's school lunch money for the next 2 days, but nothing more. He looked over at his sleeping daughter, her small chest rising and falling with each peaceful breath. Sarah never complained, never asked for toys or treats like other children. She understood, somehow, that things were hard. That understanding in a child so young broke Tyler's heart more than anything else. Tyler had been alone with Sarah for 2 years now, ever since her mother left them for a life she said wasn't suffocating. She wanted freedom, adventure, a life without the burden of a struggling family. Tyler never blamed her out loud, but late at night, the abandonment felt like a wound that never quite healed. He was 28 years old, but felt 50. Every day was a battle to keep food on the table, to keep Sarah in school, to maintain some semblance of dignity in a world that seemed determined to crush him. Tyler made a simple breakfast of toast for Sarah, saving the egg for her. He would grab something at the warehouse, maybe some crackers from the vending machine if he could spare the change. He had become an expert at going hungry, at pretending fullness when his stomach ached with emptiness. He gently woke Sarah at 6 o'clock, brushing her hair back from her forehead. She opened her eyes and smiled at him, that beautiful, trusting smile that made every struggle worth it. That smile was his reason for breathing, his purpose for pushing through another impossible day. "Good morning, princess," Tyler whispered, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Morning, Daddy," Sarah replied, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. They shared breakfast together at their small folding table, Sarah chattering about a project at school, while Tyler listened intently, memorizing every word. These moments were precious, fleeting instances of normalcy in their chaotic life. After breakfast, Tyler helped Sarah get ready for school, combing her hair into 2 neat ponytails and making sure her clothes were clean. They might be poor, but Tyler was determined that Sarah would always go to school looking cared for and loved. Tyler walked Sarah to the bus stop 6 blocks away, holding her small hand in his calloused one. The morning air was crisp, and he wished he could afford a warmer jacket for her. The one she wore was from a thrift store, slightly too big, but it would have to do. At the bus stop, Tyler knelt down to Sarah's level, adjusting her backpack straps. "Remember, sweetheart, Mrs. Henderson will pick you up after school and stay with you until I get home, okay?" Sarah nodded, her big brown eyes so trusting, so full of love. "I know, Daddy. Don't worry. I love you more than anything in this world," Tyler said, pulling her into a tight hug. "I love you too, Daddy," Sarah replied, squeezing him back. The school bus arrived, and Tyler watched until it disappeared around the corner, carrying his entire heart away. Then he began his own journey to work, a combination of walking and taking the cheapest bus route that added 90 minutes to his commute each way. He couldn't afford a car, couldn't even afford the insurance if someone gave him one. So he walked, mile after mile, saving every penny he could. As Tyler walked toward the bus stop, his mind drifted to the notice he had seen posted at the community center last week. A large corporation downtown, Morrison Industries, was hiring for warehouse management positions. The pay was nearly double what he made now, and it included benefits, actual health insurance for him and Sarah. Tyler had applied immediately, filling out the online application at the public library. He knew it was a long shot. He had no college degree, no impressive resume, just years of back-breaking work and a determination that never quit. But he had to try. For Sarah, he had to try. The interview was scheduled for today, right after his morning shift at his current warehouse job. Tyler had asked his supervisor for a long lunch break, making up an excuse about a doctor's appointment. He couldn't risk losing his current job by admitting he was looking elsewhere. In his backpack, carefully folded, was his only dress shirt and a tie he had borrowed from his neighbor. He would change in a gas station bathroom, transform himself from a warehouse worker into someone who looked like they belonged in a corporate office, even if it was just for half an hour. The warehouse was a massive, cold building filled with endless rows of shelving and the constant beep of forklifts. Tyler clocked in at 7:30 and immediately began his work, loading and unloading boxes that seemed to grow heavier with each passing hour. His supervisor, a man named Rick who seemed to enjoy wielding his small amount of power, walked past and grunted. "Moving slow today, Tyler. Pick up the pace." Tyler nodded, fighting back the urge to explain that he was moving slow because he had barely eaten in 2 days, because every muscle in his body screamed for rest. Instead, he just worked faster, pushing through the pain. By 11 o'clock, Tyler's shirt was soaked with sweat despite the cold warehouse air. His hands were shaking from exhaustion and hunger, but he kept going. He had to make it to that interview. This was his chance, maybe his only chance, to give Sarah a better life. At 11:30, Tyler clocked out for his extended lunch break and rushed to the bathroom. His reflection in the stained mirror showed a man who looked defeated, dark circles under his eyes, cheeks slightly hollow from too many skipped meals. Tyler washed his face and arms in the sink, using paper towels and hand soap to clean himself as best he could. Then he carefully changed into the borrowed dress shirt and tie, his hands fumbling with the knot. He had watched a video on how to tie it, practicing last night until his fingers memorized the movements. Looking at himself in the mirror, Tyler barely recognized the man staring back. The shirt was a bit loose, evidence of the weight he had lost over the past months, but he looked presentable. He looked like someone who deserved a chance. He stuffed his work clothes into his backpack and headed out, walking quickly toward the bus stop that would take him downtown. The interview was at 1 o'clock, and if everything went perfectly with the bus schedule, he would arrive with 10 minutes to spare. The bus was late. Tyler stood at the stop, checking his watch every 30 seconds, his anxiety building with each passing minute. He couldn't be late for this interview. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away. When the bus finally arrived, 15 minutes behind schedule, Tyler practically ran aboard, feeding his precious fare into the machine and finding a seat near the back. The bus crawled through traffic, and Tyler watched the minutes tick by with growing despair. At 12:55, they were still 6 blocks from Morrison Industries. He was going to be late. After everything, after all his preparation and hope, he was going to be late. At the next stop, Tyler made a split-second decision. He jumped off the bus and started running, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders, his dress shoes slapping against the pavement. He wasn't a young man anymore, and running in dress clothes while exhausted and hungry was a special kind of torture, but he pushed himself forward. 4 blocks, 3 blocks, 2 blocks. Tyler's lungs burned, his vision blurred with exertion, but the tall glass building that housed Morrison Industries came into view. He was going to make it. Barely, but he was going to make it. As Tyler ran across the final intersection, checking his watch one more time, he didn't notice the old man stepping off the curb ahead of him. The elderly gentleman moved slowly, using a cane, attempting to cross the busy street. Tyler looked up just in time to see a car racing toward the intersection, the driver distracted and not slowing down. Time seemed to slow down. Tyler saw the old man in the crosswalk, saw the car speeding forward, saw the disaster about to unfold. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to keep running, to make his interview, to not get involved. This was his chance. This was Sarah's future. But Tyler's feet changed direction before his mind fully processed the decision. He sprinted toward the old man, dropping his backpack, his arms outstretched. The car was so close, the driver finally looking up from their phone with wide, horrified eyes. Tyler reached the old man and wrapped his arms around him, pulling him forward with all the strength he had left. They tumbled together onto the far curb, Tyler's body twisting to take the impact, protecting the elderly stranger with his own frame. The car screeched to a halt, missing them by inches. Tyler lay on the concrete, the old man safe beside him, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. His dress shirt was torn at the elbow, his hands scraped and bleeding from the rough pavement. The old man looked at him with startled blue eyes, breathing heavily. "You saved my life, son." Tyler slowly sat up, his body protesting every movement. Around them, a small crowd had gathered, people on their phones calling for help, the driver of the car standing pale and shaking on the sidewalk. Tyler heard it all as if from a great distance, his ears still ringing from the adrenaline rush. "Are you all right, sir?" Tyler asked the old man, his voice shaky. He checked the elderly gentleman for injuries, his concern genuine despite the growing realization of what he had just done. The old man nodded, clearly shaken but unhurt. "Thanks to you, young man. You appeared out of nowhere like an angel." Tyler wasn't an angel. Angels didn't miss life-changing job interviews. He looked at his watch and felt his stomach drop. It was 1:15. He was already 15 minutes late, looking like he had been in a fight, with no way to explain or make it on time now. Someone handed the old man his cane, and Tyler helped him to his feet. The elderly gentleman was well-dressed, wearing an expensive-looking suit and a watch that probably cost more than Tyler made in a year. Despite his age, there was a sharpness in his eyes, an intelligence that seemed to take in everything. "What's your name, son?" the old man asked, gripping Tyler's arm for support. "Tyler, sir. Tyler Bennett." "You're hurt." "Tyler," the old man observed. looking at Tyler's scraped hands and torn shirt. "We should get you checked out." Tyler shook his head. "I'm fine, really. I just need to make sure you're okay." He looked around for his backpack, spotting it in the middle of the street where he had dropped it. A passing car had run over it, and he could see his work clothes spilling out onto the asphalt. A wave of exhaustion and defeat washed over Tyler. The interview was missed. His only good shirt was ruined. He had gambled everything on this one chance, and now it was gone. But looking at the old man standing safely beside him, Tyler knew he would make the same choice again. Some things mattered more than job interviews. Some things mattered more than money or opportunity. His father had taught him that, years ago, before cancer had taken him. Character is what you do when nobody's watching, son. It's who you are when the choice is hard. Tyler had made the hard choice, and now he would face the consequences. An ambulance arrived, and paramedics rushed over to check on the old man. He waved them off, insisting he was fine, but they were persistent. Tyler took the opportunity to retrieve his backpack from the street, salvaging what he could. As Tyler was preparing to leave, to somehow make it back to the warehouse before his supervisor noticed he had been gone too long, the old man called out to him, "Tyler, wait. Please." Tyler turned back. The old man had finished with the paramedics and was walking toward him, moving carefully but deliberately. "You saved my life, and you're just going to walk away?" the old man asked, a slight smile on his weathered face. "At least let me buy you lunch. It's the least I can do." Tyler looked down at his ruined shirt, at his scraped hands, at the broken strap of his backpack. He thought about the warehouse, about Rick's angry face when he returned late, about the missed interview that had been his one hope. "I appreciate that, sir, but I really need to get back to work," Tyler said quietly. "I'm already late, and I can't afford to lose my job." The old man studied him with those sharp blue eyes. "You're wearing a dress shirt and tie to your warehouse job?" Tyler felt his face flush. "I had a job interview scheduled downtown. That's why I was running. I was going to be late, and then I saw you in the street." Understanding dawned on the old man's face. "You missed your interview to save me." Tyler shrugged, trying to smile. "You can reschedule an interview. Can't reschedule a life." The old man was quiet for a long moment, and Tyler saw something shift in his expression, a deep emotion that looked almost like pain. "What's your situation, Tyler? If you don't mind me asking." There was something about the old man, a kindness in his eyes, a genuine interest that made Tyler's carefully constructed walls crumble just a little. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or the adrenaline crash, or the complete destruction of his hopes for the day. But Tyler found himself answering honestly. "I have a 7-year-old daughter, Sarah. It's just the two of us. I work at a warehouse making barely enough to keep us in a studio apartment and fed." That interview today was for a warehouse management position at Morrison Industries. Double the pay, benefits, a chance to give my daughter a real life. The old man listened intently, not interrupting, not judging. When Tyler finished, the elderly gentleman nodded slowly. "Morrison Industries. That's the building right there, isn't it?" He pointed at the tall glass structure Tyler had been running toward. "Yes, sir." "Tell me, Tyler, why did you stop to help me?" the old man asked. "You knew you would miss your interview. You knew it would cost you." "What?" Tyler thought about it, really thought about what had driven him in that split second. "My daughter, Sarah, she watches everything I do. She's learning from me how to be a person, how to treat others, what matters in life. If I had run past you, if I had chosen that interview over your life, what would that teach her?" That success matters more than people. That money is more important than doing the right thing. He shook his head. I want Sarah to grow up knowing that we help people, that we show up when someone needs us, no matter what it costs. I want her to be proud of her dad, even if her dad is poor. The old man's eyes glistened with moisture. He cleared his throat roughly. Your daughter is very lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Tyler replied softly. She's the reason I keep going. The old man extended his hand. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is George Morrison. Tyler shook his hand, the name not immediately registering. Then it hit him like a physical blow. Morrison. George Morrison. You're George Morrison? Tyler repeated, his voice barely a whisper. As in Morrison Industries, George Morrison? The old man smiled. Guilty as charged. Founder and CEO, though I've been trying to step back and let others run things these past few years. My grandson keeps telling me I'm too old to be walking to lunch alone, but I'm stubborn. Tyler felt like the world had tilted sideways. The old man he had saved, the reason he had missed his interview, was the owner of the entire company. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. Sir, I don't expect anything from you, Tyler said quickly. I didn't help you because of who you are. I didn't even know. I'm aware of that, Tyler. That's precisely what makes this interesting. George Morrison studied him with renewed interest. Tell me about yourself. Your work history, your skills, why you thought you were qualified for that warehouse management position. Tyler wanted to refuse, wanted to just walk away and preserve what little dignity he had left, but something in the old man's eyes stopped him. This wasn't pity. This was something else. So Tyler talked. He explained how he had been working warehouses since he was 18, how he knew every aspect of inventory management, logistics, and team coordination, how he might not have a college degree, but he had learned everything through experience. As they talked, George Morrison started walking, gesturing for Tyler to follow. They moved slowly, accommodating the old man's pace, and Tyler found himself describing his life in more detail than he had shared with anyone in years. He talked about Sarah, about her love for drawing, and how she wanted to be an artist someday. He talked about the struggle to make ends meet, about the fear that kept him awake at night, the terror that he wasn't enough, that he would fail her. George listened to everything, asking occasional questions, his expression thoughtful. They walked a full block before Tyler realized they were heading toward Morrison Industries. Sir, where are we going? Tyler asked. You had an interview scheduled, didn't you? You're just a bit late, that's all. George's eyes twinkled with something that might have been mischief. Tyler stopped walking. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't want charity. I don't want a handout because I helped you. That's not why I did it. George turned to face him fully. Tyler, let me tell you a story. 50 years ago, I was a young man with nothing but an idea and determination. I built Morrison Industries from the ground up, worked 18-hour days, sacrificed everything for success. And I achieved it. Money, power, respect. Everything I thought mattered. His voice grew quieter, sadder. But in pursuing all that, I lost sight of what actually mattered. I missed my children growing up. My wife died feeling like she came second to my company. George Morrison's face carried the weight of old regrets. My son followed in my footsteps, put business before everything. He died 5 years ago from a heart attack at 53, working late at the office. My daughter doesn't speak to me anymore. She says I was never really there, even when I was physically present. Tyler felt the pain in every word, recognized the familiar ache of loss and regret. My grandson runs most of the company now, George continued. He's brilliant, capable, everything I could have hoped for. But sometimes I see that same obsession in his eyes, that same willingness to sacrifice everything for success. It terrifies me. The old man met Tyler's eyes directly. Today, you made a choice that most people wouldn't make. You chose human life over personal advancement. You chose to be the kind of man your daughter could be proud of, even when it cost you everything. Do you know how rare that is? Do you understand what that says about your character? Tyler didn't know how to respond. He had never thought of it as anything special. It was just the right thing to do. I'm not offering you charity, Tyler, George said firmly. I'm offering you an opportunity to interview for a position, same as anyone else. The only difference is that I'll be conducting the interview personally, and I don't care that you're late. They entered Morrison Industries through the main entrance, a gleaming lobby with marble floors and modern art on the walls. Tyler was acutely aware of his torn shirt, his scraped hands, the backpack with the broken strap slung over his shoulder. He looked like a homeless person, not a job candidate. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw George Morrison, and she immediately stood up. Mr. Morrison, we weren't expecting you today. Are you all right? There are messages about some incident in the street. I'm fine. Rebecca, thanks to this young man. Please hold my calls. I'll be in conference room B. George turned to Tyler. Follow me. They took an elevator to the third floor, and George led Tyler to a small, comfortable conference room with a window overlooking the city. It was nicer than any place Tyler had ever been interviewed. Sit, please, George said, settling into a chair with a slight wince. The incident had clearly taken more out of him than he wanted to admit. Tyler sat, placing his battered backpack on the floor beside him. His hands were shaking slightly, and he clasped them together to hide it. George opened a laptop that was already on the conference table and pulled up what Tyler recognized as his application. Warehouse management position. Let's talk about your qualifications. For the next 30 minutes, Tyler answered questions about inventory systems, team management, safety protocols, and efficiency optimization. Despite his nerves, despite his appearance, he found himself relaxing into the conversation. This was territory he knew, work he understood and genuinely cared about. George asked thoughtful questions, digging deeper into Tyler's answers, challenging his assumptions. It felt less like an interview and more like a conversation between colleagues, and Tyler found himself engaged in a way he hadn't expected. You clearly know the technical aspects, George said finally. But management is about more than systems and protocols. It's about people. Tell me how you would handle a situation where an employee is consistently underperforming. Tyler thought about Rick, his current supervisor, who ruled through fear and intimidation. He thought about how it felt to be on the receiving end of that management style, how it crushed morale and dignity. I would talk to them privately, Tyler said. Try to understand what's happening in their life. People don't usually underperform because they're lazy or don't care. Usually, there's something going on. Maybe they're dealing with issues at home. Maybe they don't understand what's expected of them. Maybe they're in the wrong role for their skills. He leaned forward, his passion for the subject overcoming his nervousness. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Everyone deserves a manager who sees them as a person, not just a number. George Morrison sat back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. Tyler Bennett, You're exactly the kind of person I want working for this company. Tyler's heart skipped a beat. Sir, the warehouse management position is yours if you want it. Salary is $48,000 a year to start. Full benefits including health insurance, dental, and vision. 2 weeks paid vacation, sick leave, and a retirement plan with company matching. The numbers hit Tyler like a physical force. $48,000 a year. That was more than double his current salary. That was a real apartment for Sarah, good food, warm clothes, maybe even art classes she had always wanted. I don't know what to say, Tyler whispered, his vision blurring with sudden tears he tried desperately to hide. Say yes, George replied gently. Unless you have other offers you're considering? Tyler let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You're my only offer, Mr. Morrison. You're my only hope. George's expression softened with understanding and something that looked like deep respect. Then say yes, and let's get your paperwork started. When can you begin? I need to give 2 weeks' notice at my current job, Tyler said, his mind racing. It's the right thing to do, even though they wouldn't do the same for me. Character, George said with approval. That's character, Tyler. George stood up, extending his hand across the table. Tyler stood as well, shaking the old man's hand firmly, trying to process that his entire life had just changed in the span of an hour. There's one more thing, George said. I'd like to set up a trust fund for Sarah's education. Nothing extravagant, but enough to ensure she can go to college, pursue her dreams of being an artist, without you having to worry about the cost. Tyler's hand dropped. Sir, no, I can't accept that. The job is more than enough. It's everything. I can save for Sarah's education now. Tyler, you saved my life today, George said quietly. You have no idea what that means to me. I have grandchildren, great-grandchildren even, who need me around a little longer. You gave me that gift. Let me give you this one. Tyler's carefully maintained composure finally broke. Tears streamed down his face, and he didn't bother to hide them. I don't deserve this. I just did what anyone should do. But most people wouldn't, George replied. That's the point. Most people would have kept running. You stopped. You sacrificed your own interests to help a stranger. Your daughter is learning from a remarkable father. Tyler wiped at his face with his scraped hands, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't name. Gratitude, relief, disbelief, hope. So much hope it almost hurt. George guided Tyler through the paperwork process, introducing him to the HR director and explaining the situation in simple terms. Tyler was the new warehouse manager, starting in 2 weeks. The HR director, a kind woman named Patricia, didn't bat an eye at Tyler's appearance, simply congratulated him and began processing his hire. While Patricia printed out forms, George pulled Tyler aside. I'd like to meet Sarah sometime, if you're comfortable with that. Maybe we could arrange a lunch, the 3 of us. Tyler was surprised by the request. You want to meet my daughter? Tyler, when you reach my age, you realize that stuff doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. What matters is people, relationships, the impact you have on others' lives. George's voice carried a weight of hard-earned wisdom. You impressed me today, not with credentials or connections, but with character. I consider it an honor to know your family. Something shifted in Tyler's chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the job offer or the money. This old man, this stranger he had saved, was offering something more valuable than any salary. Genuine friendship, respect, the recognition of his worth as a human being. Sarah would love that, Tyler said softly. She's always asking about my day, about the people I meet. She'll be so excited to hear about all of this. Tyler left Morrison Industries 2 hours later with a folder full of paperwork, a start date circled on his calendar, and a heart so full it felt like it might burst. He had stopped in a bathroom before leaving, washing his face, trying to make himself presentable, and the man in the mirror looked different. The same tired eyes, the same worn face, but something had changed. There was hope there now, visible and real. The bus ride home seemed shorter, even though Tyler took the same lengthy route. He kept pulling out the offer letter, rereading the salary, the benefits, making sure it was real. $48,000 a year. Health insurance. A retirement plan. Things he had stopped dreaming about. Resigned to a life of endless struggle. Sarah was waiting at their apartment with Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who watched her after school for a reduced rate because she liked Sarah's company. Tyler burst through the door with an energy he hadn't felt in years. "Daddy!" Sarah ran to him, then stopped, taking in his torn shirt and scraped hands. "What happened? Are you okay?" Tyler scooped her up, spinning her around despite his exhausted body's protests. "I'm more than okay, princess. I'm perfect. We're perfect. Everything is going to be perfect." Mrs. Henderson smiled from the couch, recognizing joy when she saw it. "I'll leave you two alone." Sarah was a perfect angel, as always. After Mrs. Henderson left, Tyler sat Sarah down and told her everything. He explained about the old man in the street, about missing his interview, about the choice he had made and why. He wanted her to understand the lesson before he told her about the reward. Sarah listened with wide eyes, and when he finished, she threw her arms around his neck. "You're a hero, Daddy." "No, sweetheart. I'm just a dad trying to teach you what's important." Then he told her about George Morrison, about the job offer, about what it would mean for them. Sarah's face lit up with an understanding beyond her years. "Does this mean we can get a bigger apartment?" she asked. "Maybe one where I can have my own room." Tyler's throat tightened. She had never complained about sharing the studio, about having no privacy or space of her own. But of course she wanted those things. She was a child who deserved childhood. "Yes, princess. Your own room. And I'll be home more. Better hours, closer to here. We can have dinner together every night." Sarah hugged him tighter. "That's the best part, Daddy. I miss you when you work so much." They ordered pizza that night, a rare extravagance, and ate it sitting on the floor of their tiny apartment. But the space didn't feel small anymore. It felt full of possibility, of dreams that were finally within reach. 2 weeks later, Tyler started his new position at Morrison Industries. George Morrison personally walked him through the warehouse on his first day, introducing him to his new team. The workers looked skeptical at first, another manager who probably didn't understand their reality, but Tyler won them over quickly. He knew their world because he had lived it. True to his word, George had lunch with Tyler and Sarah the following week. Sarah brought her sketchbook and showed George her drawings, chattering away with the fearlessness of children. George listened intently, asking questions about her art, treating her ideas with genuine respect. As Tyler watched them together, the wealthy old man and his precious daughter, he understood that what happened in that street had been about more than a job. It had been about values, about the kind of person he wanted to be, about the lessons that mattered most. 3 months into his new job, Tyler and Sarah moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with actual space and light. Sarah decorated her room with her drawings, her face glowing with happiness. Tyler had never felt richer. George Morrison became a fixture in their lives, a grandfather figure who filled a gap neither of them had known existed. He attended Sarah's school art show, celebrated her 8th birthday, and often shared Sunday dinners with them. On quiet nights, Tyler would tuck Sarah into her own bed in her own room and think about that moment in the street when everything changed. He had made a choice to help someone in need, expecting nothing in return. What he received was immeasurable, not because of the job or the money, but because he had stayed true to his values, shown his daughter what really mattered, and discovered that sometimes the right choice leads to blessings beyond imagination. The greatest success, Tyler learned, wasn't measured in salary or status. It was measured in the smile on his daughter's face, in the knowledge that he had lived with integrity, in the understanding that character and kindness would always be worth more than any opportunity. And in teaching that lesson to Sarah, he had given her something no trust fund ever could, a foundation of values that would guide her through life, no matter what challenges she faced. Tyler had been a poor father who helped an old man cross the street. But in doing so, he had discovered he was already rich in the ways that truly mattered. Everything else was just a blessing on top of a life already filled with love.